Hi everyone, welcome to my review of Charlie Chaplin's Limelight in 1952. So yes, here we are with one of the last Chaplin feature films to review here, and yes, with this set once again behind me, and this is the second half of the set once again here. Yes, the only other feature film after this is A King in New York, which of course it is quite controversial. That was after, of course, he was not allowed, kind of back in the US, or he at least agreed not to come back. So yes, very, very different the last two films for him, but this is the final one, that many regard as a great, great film. It's certainly grown, over the years actually, and now it's considered one of the best Chaplins, because it got quite a lot of, panning and stuff at the time, but that's more to do with the situation of Chaplin, which we won't really get into. But this is a film that was not really a political message at all, like Monsieur Verdot was, Verdot, and it's not a film that did actually spark any kind of controversy, that leading to his kind of the problems that arose for him then. This was just a return to pure kind of, drama, human drama that was nothing to do with anything politically, really. And yes, this is a film that, yes, it was based on a novella by Chaplin himself, and it's one of the final Chaplins, as I say. Only King of New York is the next one. The last one, of course, for him to really star in the film, he does. I believe he has a cameo in, the final film, Countess. But this one, is one of his very last ones where he actually had a lead role. So yes, very, very, big film this. And I first saw this in 2017, roughly with the rest of the Chaplins. A few months after I'd seen, the Gold Rush and stuff, properly, I watched quite a few of them in succession, and then, it was a few months I saw Monsieur Verdot and this film, and yes, this rewatch was last week, and I've just been kind of I've not had the time to review this film, but here we are, and yes, this is a truly, truly special film. This is, one of the most monumental films for me in cinema, we'll just say, and certainly, one of the very, very best films ever made for me. It just is one of Chaplin's very, very finest works, in my opinion, and just certainly, actually, for me, it's underappreciated at times. It's just stunning. I had my doubts once again, but not really, because some of these later ones just aren't. It's certainly controversial, but yes, I just thought, I trust Chaplin to deliver, and wow, let me tell you. That was an understatement. This film, of course, and this is a spoilers review, you have been warned. But yes, it's very, very different this time, and it's set in London, 1914, and yes, basically, Chaplin is a kind of a washed up, you could say, kind of drunkard, but he used to be a former stage clown, and you do see kind of stuff regarding this and his imagination, everything in his mind. You kind of see some of stuff, but a lot of the first half is kind of set in his apartment, and yes, Calvero is someone who basically very straight away, basically in the film, he kind of inspects the apartment. He thinks something's going on. He smells some gas, and finds out that this young dancer, referred to as Terry in the film, played by Claire Bloom, she's basically trying to commit suicide. So yes, it is a very, very dark kind of subject matter here, and when I first saw this, I was just kind of, oh wow, okay, we're going this direction, because I deliberately, as always, really, I try not to look into things too much, so I'm not, aware of the plot maybe, but yes, this film just surprised me constantly. I didn't quite know how magnificent this piece of work would be, and that's the main kind of thing that sparks the plot here. It's this woman. He takes her in, to his apartment, to his room, and because she's not really got anywhere else to stay, and she has hysteria in the film, and it's basically recovering, and she tries. Basically, he helps her out, and he tries to basically nurse her back to her health, and build her self-esteem up once again. And it's just, that is the basic kind of plot. The rest of the film, you've got subplots going on, but it's really these two characters together, Calvera and Terry, just kind of supporting each other. Actually, he finds her, something in her, and this kind of youth, this vigor, and she is helped, aided by Chaplin's character, and the life lessons, the just the overall the sense of just what he kind of says about the meaning of life. She really finds something in this, and then she recovers, and it's just one of the most wonderful films. Very, very simple plot, usually just the way I like it. It focuses on these characters, and it really says something about as well performing. This kind of industry, and how people deal with things like this, and it's just, it really is something else. Simultaneously, kind of dealing with kind of a struggling artist of Chaplin, and someone who, as well, has her whole kind of life ahead of her, and it's just this kind of dual character study is something else. The way these characters both at the same time bring something out of one another, and they find comfort and just kind of meaning from each other, and it's a truly wonderful film. But on the rewatch, even more so, this is just one of my top 100 films, and it really brings me to tears at times. This film, it's such a powerful film, just a wonderful piece of work. Leagues ahead, of Monsieur Verdoux. While that's a great film, a masterpiece, no doubt. This is once again right up to his very best works. Actually, at times, there's moments throughout the film, actually, that it's kind of up there with his kind of modern times, for example. That's how good the film is. But overall, maybe not quite, something I love quite as much as that, and Great Dictator. But it really, it is certainly one of my very, very most loved films. It's just wonderful, of course. Once again, Chaplin, just legendary here. The acting in this film is absolutely stunning. This is one of his, for me, very, very best performances. I cannot believe how stunning this is. Claire Bloom is absolutely brilliant in this film. She is wonderful, and just a real kind of sincerity to the roles here. The acting is treated with such dignity, and the characters are just so invested. I just count this as one of the very, very finest scripts in cinema. And the way that the lines, they deliver so much meaning in themselves. You can just read this and be, inspired. But the way, they are delivered, the level of just the sense of conviction, the actual passion to every single line in the film from these characters, played by Chaplin, Claire Bloom, really is something else. The way that these characters, of course, they find one another, they find something in one another, and they find a sense to life once again. It's something else. The actual the lines of dialogue, as I say, truly stunning stuff, and as well, just these wonderful these uplifting moments. It's definitely a film that ends in kind of bittersweet, of course, but yeah, quite tragic, of course, with Chaplin dying. But yes, you have just the moment, of course, when Claire Bloom's character, Terry, of course, finally gets up and she can walk by herself, and of course she just shouts, and it's just a wonderful. One of the most, just purely uplifting moments, just absolutely mind-blowing moments in cinema, and it's the way that Chaplin captures in such a pure and a raw way the emotion to these performances, of course, and the way, of course, he writes this. It's just one of the very, very finest scripts. I think it's very, very undervalued, actually, in how good this script is. I think it's definitely one of the best, in cinema, and just really something that he put his all into. I see, and just the way he was able to bring out the performances, of course, and everyone. She was a newcomer as well, Claire Bloom. And it's something else, something to truly admire, and just everything. This script is just absolutely stunning, and it's very, very small, kind of set of characters. You also have Sidney Chaplin playing Neville. He's a composer in the film, and yes, you kind of got this wonderful, around the 40-minute mark, really, I believe, off what I recall. You start to see kind of a flashback. She kind of tells Calvera about this character who she kind of met, and she helped out and stuff. It's really, really moving stuff here, of course, as we know, and it's just this whole kind of segment, the flashback here, is something that I just once again I just kind of remembered how much how perfect this is in storytelling, and just giving exposition And then again, once she actually meets the character once again, in the film later on, quite soon after this actually, it's something you're just kind of like, wow, it's such a great piece of cinema in that sense, and it just, it really brought me to tears at times. This is kind of a classic, with this segment, classic kind of love story actually, and she does kind of think she wants to marry Calvero, but he dissuades her, and he says, go for someone else, and he persuades her to kind of go and, yes, rekindle this relationship, if you will, with Neville, and Sidney Chaplin, of course, the son of Chaplin, plays him, and he is so great in the film, really something else actually, and there's such a beautiful film in these scenes, and also it is a very tragic film, of course, as we know, the final scene, wow, that again brought me to tears, no doubt, when Chaplin, his character of Calvero is just watching on, and he barely gets to see any of the performance, and he dies. That is a moment in cinema. For me, it's just one of the most powerful. The way Chaplin, the graceful nature which he passes on, and then in the way that he's finally accomplished really what he set out to do. Helping this character, this young dancer, young performer, and it's something really moving about this, and just the way he's done everything he can, and it's finally helped her in a way, and it's just when he dies just before kind of seeing the whole performance, it's really sad, of course, but he passes on, and he's accomplished something that he had not done, and he wouldn't have done if he did not save this young person, and it's just something so poetic about this, the way, the cycle of life, and the way he's found comfort, and kind of a sense of achievement, and just something he has set out to do, and he's done it, and then he passes on, just once this has happened, and it's really wonderful, and the way it ends, with Claire Bloom's character, this is the perfect choice here. I just find it a real work of poetry here. It's just such a beautiful film, and as I say, the way this ends is truly just beautiful, and it's kind of it's also adds something that it's kind of his last film that he made, in America and stuff as well, and kind of his usual thing before he, no doubt, the kind of situations that arose for him did affect maybe his output after this, but this is certainly it would be a fitting final film, no doubt. It'd be one of the very best kind of final feature films from anyone, top 5 probably, I would say definitely, and it really is kind of like an end of an era, and a kind of ode to his a lot of his films, modern times as well, the way he kind of incorporates a lot of his past characters, his persona into this, and the way it certainly feels very autobiographical, no doubt, the way it's not, he's losing his kind of his touch, if you will, the public are not responding to him, and this is kind of what happened certainly after The Great Dictator, Monsieur Verdoux, as we know, and this film, and stuff, just not was respected, of course, politically and stuff, that came into people just attacking his work, and it's a real shame. We won't dwell on that. We will of course cherish this wonderful film, and the stuff he did leave behind, which just it really is for a single filmmaker, and for him to star in his films like this, it's something that right near the very top. He's certainly even my 4th or 3rd favourite directors of all time. I really think he was an absolute genius and a wonderful individual, and yes, of course, once again, this is scored by Chaplin, the composer is down to him, and it's a wonderful score, once again, used in such wonderful ways, perfectly judged. The editing is just beautiful, the transitions, just this is some of the very best editing I've ever seen, and it's once again just kind of got like a dreamlike effect at times. It really has, and as I say, the way he plays, he kind of it's an ode to his other work. He uses this, integrates it kind of into the story of his kind of his past glories, and the way he was very popular, and kind of a hit. It really is. It even mentions it's kind of line that just kind of it's just such an amazing line. He kind of he says, I guess it's the tramp in me, at one point in the film, near the end, and of course, you'll know what that means. It's just wonderful little kind of references, and kind of tribute, you could say, to his overall work, and it's moments like this that I just really, really appreciate, as well as being such an enthralling piece of cinema. I mean, this is one of the most human films. The life lessons, and just the overall, the approach to the life and the way that it kind of values life. Once again, just right at the top of the list, really, of most human films I've ever seen. I couldn't believe the beauty in this film. Once again, in just the lines of dialogue, the monologues, even, you could say, just when Chaplin is speaking. It's just. It really is something else, and you can, of course, it's stuff he kind of at times believes in himself, and it's so present. This feeling, zest for life, and just the appreciation for this, and how you can achieve so much if you just go for it and keep at it, and just it's a really really life changing film actually for me, and it's just inspiring film so much, and it starts off quite dark, and it kind of ends in a kind of dark way, but it finds so much joy. This is the thing within this film. It really does inspire and uplift me so much, and it's just the way kind of both characters kind of find vigor and energy and zest kind of within each other, and it's just one of the most beautiful relationships in film, and it ends, as I say, it does end with Chaplin dying, his character, but then it goes, for me, to one of the best kind of movements of a camera ever, in relation to the characters and the way the story just ends. I just think that moment when you see him there, kind of, a long shot, and then you just Claire Bloom comes into the frame, and she starts, just with her performance, of course, her dancing into the frame. There's something about this and the way it kind of just slowly kind of ends here. It's just beautiful. It really is one of the most wonderful moments actually I've ever seen in a film, and it's very, very subtle, you could say, but it's just beautiful. It really is, and as I say, the performances in the film are wonderful. They really are very, very truly moving performances. Claire Bloom is absolutely exceptional in this film, really, really is, and I just loved her as a character so much. Terry, and of course even the side characters, in the building and stuff, in the apartment, all the kind of neighbours there. I loved the charm of this, and just the overall the comedy. Of course, it is a comedy. I've said this is less of a comedy than some of his works, and yes, definitely so. It's more of a kind of a moving, more of a drama definitely than a comedy. Because things like Modern Times, while they are truly moving, some of these ones are, definitely, a certain balance to the comedy and drama. This is more, kind of definitely veers into the drama more than the romance, and just, just humanity and stuff. But it has got comedy in the film, and of course, when it is there, it is hilarious. Of course, it really, really is, and just some of his best, funniest parts actually, in this film of his later career, and it's just the way he kind of grounds different moments with the comedy is just genius. I mean, you don't really need to say much more about that because it's Chaplin. He knew how to do comedy, of course. He is my favourite, comedian of all time, and just a real humanist, of course, as we know. And this film just, represents, him at his very, very best, really, for me. Just a couple of films that I do prefer from his work, but really, this is just, you could say, it's kind of top tier Chaplin, really, because it is in my top 100, and just it really is a life changing film. The way it begins, of course, with her attempting suicide, it's so sad, and then you've got this kind of this this whole arc of her, and the way it culminates. It's just one of the best, very, very finest narratives in film for me, just hands down. This is one of the very, very finest films ever made. It's just stunning. The cinematography is perfect. Every single shot, it's perfectly composed. And yes, you've just got this wonderful score. The acting, of course, throughout the film is flawless for me. The humanity to the characters, it really is an ultimate kind of Chaplin film in many ways, and it's a good length to the film, so you get the most out of it before you go on to his, as I say, only 2 films left, and we'll see what they're like. Of course, I look forward to them. You know, I want to kind of see what I can take from these films. But this one, as we know, is the last kind of truly, you know, well-regarded Chaplin film. You know, I think this is just one of the greatest films ever made, and certainly well into my top 100 films. And as I've said, you know, the warmth of this film is just so present here, and there's kind of a comfort as well in just the first half of the actual, you know, the scenes, very small scale, you could say, and you know, just kind of in the apartment and stuff, and it's got a real warmth, you kind of to this, similar to the film The Apartment, actually, Billy Wilder. It's very similar. Actually, in plot as well, you could say. But yeah, basically, just a very you know, peaceful feel this film has, and it's truly spiritual. I think it really reaches such heights. You know, it elevates to such a you know, as well, the fact that it's so pure in the emotions throughout the entire film. There's nothing that gets in the way. You know, nothing you know, political either or anything like this. It's just pure kind of humanity here, and it just the way it kind of captures this, just this warmth in this, you know, kind of small locations at first, and then of course you've got the more of the kind of limelight, of course, as you will, you know, in the later half of the film, and just it really is something, you know, I'm constantly invested in from start to finish, and it's truly moves me beyond most films. It's such a life-changing film. It really is. This is a film that can just uplift, inspire, and you know, it's very tragic at times, and it is kind of, as I said, a kind of autobiographical film in many regards. You know, despite not being called this at times by Chaplin, it kind of is. You know, and it's so many themes in this film that are so masterfully explored, and these characters, these relationships, these you know, kind of these characters and how they interact. It's just so wonderful to see, and just and an event in itself. You know, the fact that Chaplin is just such you know, an amazing actor, of course, one of my top 5, and you know, he is the lead again, and very different for him. But you know, just once again, absolutely genius here. The acting is another level, and the way the film is made, and the way the story is told, it's just, you know, it really is an absolute masterpiece, and you know, it could, you know, it was one of them films that's been considered for, but not quite, you know, for my very highest rating, but you know, it doesn't matter, it really doesn't matter. I have to draw a line somewhere, and you know, this film certainly, if not, you know, very close into that rating, but I have to give it 100% plus. Tier 1, and this is a very high tier 1. This is into my top 100, of course. It is quite high in there. It really is just one of the most stunning films ever made for me, and I didn't quite know how good this would be, you know, going into this, and you know, because yes, it gets quite a lot of attention now, but you know, I didn't quite know how to respond to this before I saw it, but I just, you know, I thought I cannot wait to see this, and it really exceeded my expectations. You know, this is a film, if you've not seen it, and you know, because if you've seen quite a lot of the other Chaplins and not seen this, which is usually the case, you know, this is certainly not one to kind of be hesitant on, really, I wouldn't say. Personally, you know, of course, some people won't respond to it in this way, but I really think a strong case for one of his very finest works. I can understand if this is someone's favourite, because it really has all of this, these life lessons. This is just moving film, packed into one. You know, and it's kind of epic in length as well at times, the scope of it, and you know, it really is an absolute masterpiece. Flawless piece of work, and it's truly spiritual film that just, you know, it takes me beyond once again, just through you know, kind of the dialogue, of course, the overall tone of the film, the performances, and just once again the music, really just used to perfection here. It's one of the most moving films, of course. Buster Keaton as well, you know, I forgot to mention that. He's in the film. It's kind of an event as well. Him and Chaplin, the only time they were together in a film, and yeah, I look forward to checking out more of Keaton's work. I've never seen a feature film from him, but that will be, you know, there's actually a release coming of, you know, the 3 of his big films, actually, The General included, on Blu-ray soon. I'll be getting that actually in August, so yes. Can't wait to do that, and you know, it's just an event, of course. These two kind of legends, you know, and just the scenes there, you know, with them together are really hilarious as well. She's got the perfect kind of the balance between the performances in the film here, and just I love, you know, Keaton's character, the partner, of course. It's just hilarious, you know, on the piano, constantly dropping the sheets. You know, it's moments like this, genius comedy, but then you've got the pathos, the way he kind of pays tribute, homage to his you know, his past work. But again, it's this wonderful human story that's so unique and so pure and so uplifting, while also being very, very tragic. It really is one of the most you know, just kind of moving films, an ultimate film for me, really. You know, not too many films for me are better than this, and it's just the one I cannot praise more. You know, it's not quite in my highest rating, but as we know, so many films, you know, that are in my top 100 or top 150 don't quite get the highest rating, but they are some of my most loved films, kind of obsessed films of mine, and you know, this is a film that I absolutely adore, and you know, if you've not seen it, you have to check it out. I'm sure you'll at least find something in this, and it really, really is life-changing for me, and it's an absolute masterwork from Chaplin. Once again, this wonderful individual producing one of the very, very most, you know, inspirational films, and you know, there's a real beauty to this, a purity, as I say. The performances, Claire Bloom is absolutely outstanding in this film. Lovely, lovely character that she plays, and it's just a wonderful film in how it captures this, you know, this rejuvenation, you know, of a character after, you know, attempting suicide and actually finding the meaning and the value in life. You know, it doesn't get much more kind of inspirational than this. It really doesn't. You go into some dark places, but overcoming them in the end, and showing how you know, the cycle of life, of course, and the way that Chaplin dies at the end, and then you have death, and then straight after that follows life. You know, life born again. You know, through Chaplin aiding this character, and it shows how as well, you know, we can help each other out and stuff, and you know, help each other on the way. They both kind of play a role in this, you know, at the same time for one another, and you know, it's beautiful in its execution, and you know, really in that sense, it's just a wonderful film. Not much more to say. You know, it really is a real firm favourite in my top 100. I just cannot believe how good this film is. It's just stunning. It really is a wonderful film, and you know, for 4 Chaplin films to be in my top 100, you know, to get this acclaim from me, and you know, just it really is. He's one of the very, very best filmmakers for me, and top 5 filmmakers and actors in my opinion. I just think he's wonderful, and yes, the score as well, as I said, everything, the editing, this is the work of a true genius, a truly wonderful human being. Really, really wonderful stuff here, and yes, we'll be going through, of course, going to the next film within the next few weeks, and yes, A King in New York. So you know, the final film, I'll have to get hold of that, as I've said, a Countess from Hong Kong, but yes, you know, A King in New York certainly will be watched, you know, within the next few weeks, kind of thing. I look forward to that, and yeah, I look forward to reviewing it. But this film, Limelight, gets my highest kind of, well, it doesn't get my highest rating, you know, it pretty much does, kind of thing. It's very, very you know, high in my top 100, and it really is just a magnificent work from one of the masters of cinema, and yeah, it's just as I've said, it doesn't get more inspirational than this. It really is a stunning film, and just you know, the humanity to it, the dreamlike effect as well, the spiritual levels, and the whole production. You know, it just really is beautiful. The costumes, Claire Bloom is wonderful, beautiful in the film, and just such a dignity to everything here. You know, Sidney Chaplin is just an absolutely wonderful film. Once again, a pleasure and a privilege to watch the film. Thank you, Chaplin, once again, for definitely delivering a life-changing film. And yes, you're just a wonderful person. And yes, as I say, look forward to the more reviews as well. I watched, just a quick one, tonight I watched this for the first time, The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, and wow, this one surprised me too. Review of this up in the next few days, and yes, as always, thanks for watching my review.